Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the underworld. The Star Wars underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun, and it's all-round good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
Whoa! I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Star Wars Underworld podcast. We are your source for the latest breaking Star Wars news, discussion, and reviews each and every week. And this week on the show, we're going to be talking about all of those Kenobi trilogy rumors. We're going to be discussing some of the new comments by one of the writers behind Obi-Wan Kenobi and the big revelations that they bring, how that affects potentially the future of the Kenobi series on Disney Plus, and our thoughts and feelings about that. We're also going to be talking about Taika Waititi's film and the confirmation that it will not be coming out next year. And we're going to be breaking down what that means for Star Wars' future film slate. And could John Williams actually be retiring? It's not true. It's impossible. We're going to be talking about all that and so much more on this episode of the Star Wars Underworld podcast. My name is Chris, and joining me, it is my good friend, the founder of the Star Wars Underworld, Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
How's it going, everybody? Good to be back. We don't have a new episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi to discuss. It's over, guys. No more Kenobi. But we've got some news. We got a potential season 2 maybe on the horizon. Maybe, hopefully. I don't know. Maybe. Should it happen? Should it not happen? We're actually going to maybe get into that and discuss it a little bit tonight and get some opinions. But we got a couple more months till Andor. So that's on the horizon. But right now we got some news to get into. So I can't wait to dive into it.
Yes, and also joining us is Dominic Jones. However, there's something, Dominic, you look a little different this week.
Wait a minute.
Hello, Chris. Hello, Ben. Hello, everybody. And it's so good to be here.
Yeah, the accent's different. Your background looks great, though.
I've been traveling.
I'm
on holiday.
I would say it's not Dominic, but he's got the hat.
It's got the hat.
I mean, it's all there. So.
I just need my overshirt, and it's me, and it's really me, and then you'll believe me.
I think it's Dominic, obviously, doing an incredible, Emmy, if not Oscar-winning Hannah Raeside impression. Come on, now.
Yeah. Well, I'm impersonating myself. That is, I think, Oscar-worthy.
We got
but it's so good to be here, guys. Like we said, I'm just recovering after Kenobi, the roller coaster Kenobi was, and twiddling my thumbs until Andor comes out. But got some interesting news and I've got a couple of hot takes to share with everyone on these topics. So I'm so excited. Let's get into some Star Wars.
I'm excited. So we're going to be talking about Kenobi in a hot second, but real quick, just a reminder to everybody, punch that subscribe button if you are watching on YouTube, and make sure you leave a review if you are listening on your favorite podcast app. Over on YouTube, you can super chat with us to support us for our big international pancake party. We have to pay to ship about 100 IHOP stacks of pancakes across the ocean. That's going to be very expensive. So definitely super chat with us and become a channel member to fund that pancake relocation operation that is going to be happening next year. Patreon.com/the SWU is also a way you can support us off of YouTube, where you can also get merch as a thank you gift for supporting us. And that's where you can also get our exclusive Patreon pre-shows that we do every week. We had a really fun one this week talking about the meaning of words and Marvel films and TV shows and many other things. So definitely check that out.
So many odd things, really odd things actually in that pre-show.
That's right. And if you want to send us feedback, swunderworld@gmail.com is where you can do that. Don't forget that Percy lives and give us detours. All right, so let's get to it. Let's talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi. This is coming from the direct. This is their big scoop. Obi-Wan Kenobi movie trilogy was planned before Disney Plus. And I'm going to get to the details right now from the direct. So this is from an exclusive interview with Nathan Johnson, who works for the direct. And he was talking to Stuart Beattie, who was his writer for Obi-Wan. And he was talking about how it was originally imagined as a, quote, a full trilogy. And he was credited as a writer for episodes 1, 2, and 3. And so, Ben, help me actually understand this. So are they talking about, was he a writer for 1, 2, and 3 in the season finale of the series, right? But he was talking about how originally this series came from a trilogy.
Okay, so...
Am I getting that straight?
So the way I understand it is that Stuart Beattie was originally brought on to work on the Obi-Wan Kenobi or Kenobi movie way back when. And he wrote a movie. He wrote a full movie that he intended to be the first of 3 movies. And so basically it went through a whole different things, and then stuff happened, and that movie did not happen. So as the story goes, they continue on. He leaves the project, goes on to do other things. Meanwhile, some other people step in, and they make Obi-Wan Kenobi as we know it right now, which is an adaptation of his script. So a lot of the characters and stories we see in this are taken from those original scripts from the film that was going to be. So he reveals in this one that basically, that he was writing what he thought of as one movie of a full trilogy, as he calls it. And he actually says, I want to read off all these quotes. He says, I wrote the film that they based the show on. So I spent like a year and a half working on it. And then when the decision was made not to make any more spin-off films after Solo came out, I left the project and went on to other things. Joby Harold came on and took my scripts and turned it from 2 hours into 6. So I did not work with them at all. I just got credit for the episodes because it was my stuff. So he didn't work on the show. He kind of laid the groundwork for what we saw.
And I guess so he continues on to say that when he pitched the Obi-Wan story to Lucasfilm, he said there's actually 3 stories here because there's 3 different evolutions that the character has to make in order to go from Obi-Wan to Ben. And the first one was the first movie, which was the show, which was surrender to the will of the Force, transport your will, surrender your will, leave the kid alone. So then the second movie was thinking about where Kenobi ends up. And one of the most powerful and probably the most powerful moment, one of the most powerful and probably the most powerful moment in all of Obi-Wan's story is that moment where he sacrifices himself in A New Hope. Great moment, makes you cry. But if you stop and think about it, it's a pretty stunning thing to just go from being a fighting guy to seeing Luke and go, I'm going to die. That to me, that required forethought, that required pre-acceptances that this was going to happen. So so really the big kind of story here is that it wasn't a situation where you had 3 movies that were adapted into those 6 episodes that we got. you had 3 movies where it looks like only one of the movies was adapted into those 6 episodes. So there is this vision out there for 2 more movies that have not made its way into what we've seen so far, which could potentially mean that there is material for a Kenobi season 2 and maybe even a Kenobi season 3 out there. That is the big blockbuster story, right?
And I think later on in the interview, he talks about how they just hired him to do one movie, and so I think he was kind of taking it upon himself to kind of like stretch this out, and he never submitted the other 2 scripts, assuming they were ever written. So, that stuff's kind of in his head and kind of was never really considered by Lucasfilm. So, that's all there somewhere out there. I mean, and obviously they took from that and kind of like thought of it as, okay, this is a limited series, as they kept calling it, not a movie, just 6 episodes that they stretched out from what was going to be originally just the movie, which maybe kind of pulling a Solo there, which ironically Solo is what killed this. Is, Solo was kind of like, hey, we're going to do one movie, but maybe we'll do more. And maybe we're going to set this up to do more stuff. And then, what happened. And they're like, okay, well, nobody likes Alden as Han Solo or whatever they thought.
The big question that was asked of him was, because he was really hired to write one, but the other 2 were just ideas that he had. The question is, like, was this something that Lucasfilm was going to go forward with? Was this something that Ewan was envisioning doing when he first took on the project when he was first in talks with the project, I guess, as a film? Was Ewan McGregor envisioning telling a story over one film or multiple films? And so Beatty was asked about this, and he says, in regards to Lucasfilm and McGregor being on the board with the idea of it being a trilogy, he said, oh, absolutely, yeah, for sure. Yeah, Ewan was on board. Everyone, we were like, yeah, ready to go. And we were so excited about it too. It's a great story to tell, right? It's just a fitting character, and Ewan is just so fantastic at it, and he's the perfect age, everything. So this is something that, while he was only writing and he was only hired to write the first one, which is what kind of got adapted into season 1, the only season of Kenobi, Ewan McGregor was on board with doing more. And so you got to think that in the back of Ewan's head, when he's thinking about the character that he's playing, he's thinking about a further arc, a further evolution that happens after the point where this series ends, which is very, very, very fascinating. And I'd like to know, someone's got to ask Ewan if he's still thinking about that, if he's still processing where does the character go from here. And that's just a really fascinating question. All right.
Yeah.
So takes time. What are our thoughts on it? We've been explaining it, so I want
yes.
The article. There's an article over the direct. They have the full thing. Read the full interview, because I think it's very interesting, and it gives you kind of. He has a lot of thoughts about some other things that are very interesting. But yeah, we got the gist of it here.
Yeah, and the gist we got is interesting, and I think it proves that Disney and Lucasfilm are very much thinking on their feet when it comes to Star Wars storytelling right now. Because if we think if this was coming out, this article, and we hadn't had a Kenobi season yet, but this was coming out 5-7 years ago, a Kenobi trilogy, we would be like, that's brilliant. A trilogy of movies, this epic thing of Obi-Wan, of Ewan. Oh my God, that's amazing. But not that that wouldn't be amazing, but now I think personally it would feel odd, because the past couple of years, it's been so focused on telling these pockets of stories of, the Mandalorian and Grogu and that little journey there. And we've been, we're going to see Ahsoka, and we're going to see Endor, and we're kind of doing these little pockets of time, little, weeks, months, 12-month periods of Star Wars. So I think the grandness of a trilogy would have felt maybe a bit out of place if it was like, oh yeah, this December we're going to get a massive trilogy of you. And I feel like it would have kind of what's the word? Shadowed everything else and made the other shows and the other projects of Star Wars feel really small. So as much as that would mean like more time for Kenobi on screen, and I would love to see another Star Wars movie in the theaters, I think it makes sense that it was like, oh yeah, it was kind of this trilogy idea, X amount of years ago, and that's kind of where we started. But it's, Disney and Lucasfilm has very much kind of been reforming itself over the past 3 years, and it would make absolute sense to be like, okay, we're going to adapt this into this TV show and this fantastic booming streaming service we have now. So that's my take. That's my take. It makes sense that it was a trilogy, but it actually makes more sense that they went, no, we're going to make it a show.
Yeah,
that's my thought.
Yeah, no, that really does make sense. And you got to think they had to have had those thoughts somewhere along the process, because there has to be reasons why they shifted gears, and those could have been some of the reasons. We have another special guest host joining us. When Hannah's here, it's very likely that Jordan's not far behind. Indeed, true.
There he is.
He's here.
Hi,
Jordan.
I was supposed to be here several minutes ago, but my computer decided, on top of being 5 minutes late, that it was going to have a complete meltdown. And then I, in turn, had a complete meltdown. So here we are.
So here's Jordan, not as a trilogy, but as a limited series.
Yeah, I'm not 6 episodes though, only 3. You get 3, and that's it. Sorry about it.
Awesome. Well, Jordan, so what was your reaction when you heard that this was a big film trilogy initially, and that was condensed down to just one season of a show and who knows what else?
So I don't know, because that's hearing you guys talk about it while I was waiting to be brought on was kind of like my first time hearing about it. And so I was like, oh, that's really interesting. I love what we got. I don't think I would have minded it either way. The only parts of Star Wars that I'm really like, this would have been better if that happened, is some of the sequel content. Anything else, I'm pretty not indifferent, but I'm gonna be impressed no matter what they do, as long as it's good storytelling, and I feel like that's what we got. So it's like, okay, it's not something I am probably going to dwell on too much, after we talk about it here. It is an interesting fact for sure, but I am in love with what we got, especially that finale. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting how the inner workings of Lucasfilm have been doing things in the last couple of years.
To be like a tell-all book or like a documentary about what happens behind closed doors at Lucasfilm. Fly in the wall thing, about the whole Disney takeover and the whole thing of changing George Lucas his ideas into J.J. Abrams' ideas and all of that stuff. And this is part of it. This concept of moving from the Obi-Wan films to the Obi-Wan series. Right. All these little pieces that we know we might never fully hear these stories about how this stuff happened, but I really, really am curious. I want to know. It's just fascinating how things of magnitude change over time and who's behind changing them and what the reasons for changing them are. I think for me, for this one, I think one of the reasons why I'm slightly sad that we did not get a film trilogy, first of all, just as a film trilogy, is just how few Star Wars films we're getting right now.
Right.
In the grand scheme of things, I think we're still going to get a lot of Star Wars films. We've already gotten, I think 5 since Disney films. And then we're going to get many, many, many more, although with the announcement we're going to talk about later in the show, it might be a little longer till we see the next one than we even thought. So the fact that we've gone so long without a film and are going to go another probably few years without a film, it does kind of make me wish that they had kept it as a film trilogy so that we could have that bridge the gap between the end of the sequels and the beginning of this new era where everything's different and disconnected. So I do feel like, while it's made a big impact as a show, there's so many series on Disney Plus. Do we really need one more when there's nothing in theaters? So that one kind of boggles my mind a little bit. However, that being said, having it as a series did allow us to get way more screen time, which is really cool, and develop a lot more awesome characters. And so I do applaud them on wanting to make the story deeper and doing it as a series. And really the only thing now that I'm just trying to puzzle over is like, can you stretch out? They did stretch out one film into a whole miniseries. I personally felt like it was paced a little bit too slowly. I wish it had moved faster than it had. And now I wonder if they do a season 2 and it's based on.
I'm sorry, I'm 5 years old.
If they do
a season 2, Dooku.
Stop that.
Will they stretch it out again like this, or will they make it maybe 3 or 4 episodes? And that might be better, because that's kind of what I would like to see, is them come back and maybe do 3 or 4 episodes and then take a break and then come back and do 3 or 4 more episodes. I don't know if there's 12 more episodes to the story. I don't know if the Obi-Wan between where he's at the end of this series and the beginning of A New Hope is 12 episodes worth of storytelling or not. That seems like it's a little bit too much for me. So I guess my opinion is, if they're going to come back with season 2 and season 3, I want it to be less episodes. I want the episodes to really count and mean something. I don't want episodes where you feel like you're kind of doing the same thing again, telling the same story again. I don't want to see that.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing that might happen, because we saw it kind of happen with The Mandalorian, and we really saw it happen with the Book of Boba Fett. They did all these episodes, and The Mandalorian got its 2nd season, and then it kind of stopped being about what the show was called. You know, we got, even though Boba Fett did it worse than Mandalorian, we still got episodes, and it was like, okay, are we watching a Bo-Katan show or a Boba Fett show, or are we still watching the Mandalorian?
Yeah,
and then the Boba Fett, or Ahsoka. And then in Boba Fett, we had 2 or 3 whole episodes with Din Djarin in it. And it's like, okay, am I watching Mandalorian season 3, or am I watching the Book of Boba Fett? So I say that to say, if Kenobi lasts any longer, are we looking at a situation where it's like, okay, are we watching Rebels season 5, or are we watching Obi-Wan or Jedi Fallen Order 2, or Obi-Wan Kenobi? You know what I mean?
I bet you Ben has a really hot take on this, and like has this theory that no one's thought of yet.
Why are you gonna set me up for failure like that? Why are you gonna do that?
It's gonna be really.
I mean, it is your name.
Now my mind is blank. Now, like you said, oh, he's got a thing.
No, it is now.
His brain in his nut.
Fix everything, Ben. Make Kathleen Kennedy stop eating.
What's your solution here, Ben?
Listen to me, Kathleen. Listen to what I'm saying. No, I think like obviously the thing that you take away from this is like, okay, so like this was like movie 1. Season 1 was movie 1. There's more movies, so why not season 2? And everyone that loved Obi-Wan Kenobi is like, well, why not do a season 2? And the creators, Ewan McGregor, like I think there's other interviews we might even get to in the show where Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen are like, yeah, let's do more. Let's things. And like Ewan's like, yes, please. I don't want this to be the last time I play this character. And like, I agree. But at the same time, I am like kind of torn with the idea of like Chris is saying, like, there's so many other things to tell. We've got Andor coming out, in a couple months, which I'm very excited about. And there's so many other things to do. I think, does this story between episodes 3 and 4, does it need a trilogy? Does it need 3 seasons? I don't know. Like, there is the whole debate of like, what works better for a story? Does it need a season of television? Does it need multiple seasons of television? Does it need a movie? We won't know. We had Kathleen Kennedy, of all people, recently going like, oh, well, maybe Solo would have worked better as a TV show. Like, what? This is amazing that, of all people, she's the one speculating about that.
Yeah.
And, and a lot of people have brought that up, and, you can't disagree with it. The only way you can do it is like, yeah, make the Solo TV show. Like, we'll decide afterwards.
Yeah. Instead of make Solo 2, make Solo TV.
Yeah, make Solo TV.
But I do really want that. I want that really bad. But like, I enjoyed Obi-Wan Kenobi. I liked the idea of a season 2. I like the idea of maybe there's more to this story, but I also like it ended pretty well. I like that end episode. That episode wrapped it up pretty nicely. And I realized that you can, it's like anything. It's like, you can continue this, or you can keep it the way it is, or you can ruin it with a sequel that is not as good. There's still that possibility, and I don't want to see that happen. I think let the story, if we're gonna do more stories, that's fine, but what more to the story is there for Obi-Wan? And of course you could ask the same thing going into this, like, well, they're gonna fight again? They already fought twice already. Why do they need another Darth Vader versus Obi-Wan fight? Like, come on. So I don't know. Like, I'm kind of torn on this. I like the idea of they were gonna do a Kenobi trilogy, they're gonna do a solo trilogy. Like, there's a very ambitious portion of time for Lucasfilm. Like, everybody gets a trilogy, you get Oprah, you get a trilogy, you get a trilogy. Like, everything went crazy, and now we're not getting. We haven't gotten any trilogies in a while. So
I think
where does this go from here?
For me, I think it's also a case of everybody just wants a Star Wars movie in theaters so bad, and so everyone's like, just do it, But I feel like with the Kenobi series, less was more, and we had 6 episodes clocking in at almost an hour each. That's 6 hours of Kenobi that rocked our worlds. And I feel like if they try and top it with another season or whatever, it might not be so hot. You know what I mean? Like, it's not gonna be as emotional or.
Well, that's a good point, Jordan, because it's like they hit all the beats. I mean, that's the one thing that my big takeaway from the Kenobi series was all the things I wanted them to do, they did. Like, you had the Leia moments, the Luke moments, the Owen and Beru moments, and you had the Qui-Gon moment.
Yep.
You did all the big moments that you could do, that you pictured, and of course, we weren't even expecting Obi-Wan and Anakin to meet Darth Vader and Obi-Wan. They did multiple times. So you've done all that stuff. It's like, what is left for the character to do except continue on his journey with Qui-Gon? So, I mean, I can't say that I wouldn't want to see a series that really heavily focuses on Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. And the other thing that I really did like about Kenobi, despite I had some issues with how it was executed in certain spots, is I really did like the
Order 66.
Yes, the flashbacks were really cool. Like, I love seeing stuff from the Clone Wars era, or even before the Clone Wars, was super cool. And so I guess I don't know what BD had in his head for movie 2 and 3, but if I were writing it, that's what I would do. Is I would focus on Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan's journey to being able to keep his individuality after dying, and that whole him sacrificing himself and how he got to that point. And then I would do a lot more flashbacks into Obi-Wan's past as well, and maybe even Qui-Gon's past. Maybe answer some questions about what was going on with Sifo Dyas.
Okay, but see, listen. I feel like that's gonna be part of Tales of the Jedi.
It will.
That's true.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing about should Obi-Wan get a second series, and going back to my original point about at what point is it gonna stop being about Obi-Wan, because it eventually has to happen, right? Let's just make a giant Star Wars show about each era, and just one season each. All the groups of characters get their own season or 2. It'll be chaotic as hell, but I think
Star Wars show.
Well, you're talking about Tales of the Jedi, but with a live action version.
Yeah. So the first season was Obi-Wan Kenobi. The second season is Rebels, and then the third season's Ahsoka, and it's like we can all just be happy.
Technically, we are getting that. Technically, we're getting we had just a big Star Wars show, and last month it was Obi-Wan Kenobi. In August, it's going to be Andor focused.
And Bad Batch. Wait, when is Bad Batch coming out?
September.
I didn't go to that panel, so I didn't care to look.
September 28th. So I'm pretty sure.
I think it's a month after Andor.
Okay,
which means they're going to be on air at the same time.
Yeah. Do you guys know how fun? Not to
I don't like that.
Not to veer the conversation away from what we're talking about, but I haven't seen two of the three of you, or talked to two of the three of you in person since Celebration. And it's just so weird to like my Star Wars fan friends that didn't go to Celebration when I came back to Texas were like, "What did you see? Did you record the trailer?" No, I didn't record the trailers because it was my first Celebration. I was trying to be a good boy. So no, I didn't record anything.
I didn't want to get arrested, thank you very much.
Right. I didn't want Kathleen Kennedy to arrest me. So
I saw that giant man staring at me through the whole entire trailer, like ready to throw me over the balcony if I pulled up my phone.
Yeah, and you and I sat next to each other for quite a bit of those announcements. And I saw that same giant man looking at us, and I was like, "Sir, calm down. It's okay." But it's just hilarious, and I can't wait for all that good stuff. I love Star Wars. What can I say?
It is interesting, Hannah, that point that you brought up, because again, it kind of, I'm trying to merge it with something that kind of ties into my thoughts on Kenobi, and one of the things that I was thinking was, well, should we really get more episodes of Kenobi when, we'd rather maybe see a new show about characters we don't know, or maybe a character we do know who hasn't been on screen a lot getting a show? What would we rather see, more of Kenobi or more of something new? And really, it's to the point where I feel like we can have it both ways, because there's so many things coming out. It's not like they would probably not make something just because they're making season 2 of Kenobi, but because there's so much coming out that there's going to be stuff coming out concurrently. But that brings up a really interesting question, which is, why are they taking such a long break after Kenobi just to have 2 shows air at the same time?
That doesn't make sense to me. Like, if they just reeled it back, like if Andor was coming out now in a week's time, like it would have been good. It would have been Obi-Wan, then Andor, then Bad Batch into Mando. Like, it would have been this awesome just flow on effect.
I guess it's just probably Andor maybe not be finished yet, maybe, and that's why also Stranger Things is coming out tonight. So that's going to be, and I think probably the main reason they had Obi-Wan Kenobi premiere when it did was for celebration's sake. Otherwise, I don't think they would have put it right up against Stranger Things, So, I think they have their reasons. They don't always make sense to us mortals, but it is fascinating, because like that's the thing I would like. And then they had like Miss Marvel coming out like right in there, and it's getting like really low ratings, even though it's really good. Go watch it, guys. And I'm like, why'd you announce that? Why'd you bring around that then? Why couldn't you just hold it off for a little bit? Because they have these juggernauts like Stranger Things, is Obi-Wan Kenobi taking over. Their release schedule, because I would be like, just Marvel series, Star Wars series, Marvel series, Star Wars series, just forever. Do it.
Do it. What are my newer theories in terms of like the question of, and I don't know if this is a question later on, but I'll answer it now anyway. Should there be a season 2? Is that a question we have later? Should I wait for that answer later?
It's kind of already been asked.
Okay, all right. Yeah, all right, let's do it now. See, I think there should be, but it's not going to be about Obi-Wan. I think there should be a Kenobi season 2. And we see maybe Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon talking about some Force abilities and having some meditation scenes and very, kind of discovering the Force together. But I think the bulk of the stories is have one more season on Reva and her journey, and maybe she kind of goes to Ben for some mentorship, and they have a bit of a relationship there now. And then a 3rd season of Kenobi with Leia. Now, I think that will work because both those characters can interconnect with Obi-Wan. And even though maybe Obi-Wan might sit as kind of like a co-main character there, it can still be under that umbrella. Now, it's funny that I think of that personally because my opinion of the Boba Fett series was similar to everyone else, where I didn't really like how Mando and Luke took over an episode. But what I've come to realize, this is a long rant, what I've come to realize is that the reason I think I didn't like it, and maybe perhaps why other people didn't enjoy that, is because that wasn't prefaced. It wasn't branded. It wasn't noted. It wasn't like, it's probably a big spoiler if they weren't going to be like, oh, Luke's going to be in it, but they could have said like the Boba Fett show, and then, in promotion, in the branding, kind of go, this is, a straight, interconnected story with Mandalorian. Like literally, if there was something about that there, it's expected. So when we get one episode of all the show of Boba, we go, oh yeah, this is because it's an arm from the Mandalorian. Yeah. That makes sense. But because everyone's like, this is a totally different show, why the hell is this character in it? Like, it was very jarring. Where I think if it was branded like, oh no, these are really interconnected stories, I definitely think we could have 3 seasons of Kenobi. The first one about Kenobi, the second one about Reva, and the third one about Leia. That's my hot take.
Yeah. I think that would be pretty cool. That would be pretty cool. And that brings up, that's almost creating a Kenobi verse. Like you have the Mandoverse with Ahsoka and Boba Fett and perhaps some other shows that are going to kind of intermingle with all of those, and obviously the Mandalorian itself. And so that's just the really idea of not just keeping the show focused on Kenobi, but expanding more on the other characters that are around at that time. And Reva and Leia are definitely 2 of the strongest ones that were fleshed out in this show. And so you definitely can branch out like that and have it be under the Kenobi banner, perhaps, just like you have the Mandalorian banner. But yeah, I mean, it's either that or have kind of like a spiritual sequel, not an actual sequel, but like still do like a Leia show or a Reva show, and then just have it be kind of, Obi-Wan might show up in them, but it's really not labeled that way, so people don't get confused when there's not a lot of him in it. Like, and then maybe you could continue, have him come back in, kind of like you had Mando come into Book of Boba Fett, but you could actually, like you said, brand it that way and say, all right, this is good. There's going to be a dash of Obi-Wan. You're going to continue his story with Qui-Gon. All that stuff's going to continue in this show, but the focus is going to be on these new characters. Like, I think that would be a good way to do it.
And let's be honest here. They would be idiots, absolute morons, if they did not bring back Vivian Lyra Blair as Leia at some point. Yes. If not, like next week, okay? And like give her own show. Like, come on. So
her performance was, that was Leia. I don't, what more can you say about how
she's even a great character. She just was spot on.
Like, that's way more of that. Way more.
Like the way she portrayed Leia is exactly how I expected a 10-year-old Leia to be.
It's funny how like this show does have a lot of parallels in my mind to Solo. I think my ideal like Solo 2 is not necessarily a Solo 2. It's like, oh, let's do a movie about Lando. Let's do a movie about Kira. She's like the most fascinating character in the entire movie is Kira.
Right?
Give her own movie. Like in this thing, it's like, yeah, give me a whole show about Roken in the path. Like, give me a show about Leia on Alderaan with Bail and Breha. Like, do that.
And yes, I will be Roken.
Give me a prequel.
Do it.
I would do it. Please. I was about to say that. Oh wait, we could have a Leia and Kira show, but then I realized how awkward that would be.
The age. Yeah, that would be weird. That would be really weird. It's the same time period. It's the exact same time period. We're talking about like, for all we know, Solo and Obi-Wan Kenobi could be taking place in the same week. But I don't know what they'd have in common. I don't know what. Yeah, that would.
What if Kira's the antagonist and Leia's the protagonist, and like Leia at like 12-year-olds like unfoils like Crimson Dawn and like like destroys it like from just
at 12 years old she took down a whole crime family,
like a crime syndicate.
I mean,
that's actually why Darth Maul is on Moraband in Rebels. because of 10-year-old Leia.
And it is like, I mean, like the possibilities of like you got Andor running around in, it's about 5 years later is when Andor is set. Like it's not that far removed.
Is Joel right? Does in the comics do Leia and Kira meet each other?
Oh yeah, that's a whole thing. What? That's the whole Crimson.
Oh yeah, isn't it like it's
Come on,
during the
sequels
or something?
Tell me you guys didn't know that.
I did not realize that there was using Star Wars.
They redo Shadows of the Empire. They do the whole we're fighting over Han Solo's carbonite block, and Kira gets it, and then the Butch Empire. There's a whole thing. Just look up Crimson Empire. No, that's not it. Joel, correct me if I'm wrong here.
That's
the whole thing. I didn't read it. I just read the Cliff Notes version, and that's what happened.
Wow.
Yeah. So they have canonically met. So
wow.
Yeah.
Did they know of their relation when they met?
What is their relation?
I mean, they're both after
Han Solo. I was about to say something really.
Oh, Han, of course, yeah.
I was about to say something really inappropriate.
Oh, that is good. Oh, that's why it's awkward. I've just caught up. Oh, where have I been? I've just realized why that is awkward now.
Oh wait, this is that was a good 2.
You're having all the realizations all the rest of us had like 6 months ago.
Oh man, can I bring up a comment that Joel said before?
Yes. Was it 2 episodes ago?
Yeah, probably actually. Oh, I see this thing. How do I put it up? This kind of like the High Republic banner. Referencing back to this idea of Kenobi and kind of branding. This overarching thing. Exactly what High Republic do. The High Republic is like the title of all these stories, and it's High Republic, and it kind of sets the tone. But all these books have different characters and different settings at different times. But you're like, oh yeah, this is in the High Republic. Same thing. I think should happen with Kenobi. This is a part of Kenobi.
You're really right, and what I'm surprised at is them not using the Dark Times as a label for a lot of this stuff, because it looks like I would assume a lot of Andor, and then obviously Kenobi and Bad Batch are all Dark Times. So why not just label them all Dark Times stuff? And because now
that's actually how it's written down in Palpatine's diary. Dark Times.
It's just scribbled with like a crayon.
It should be part. There should be another label that says part of the Dark Times era or the Dark Times anthology or like something like that.
And Acolyte is a standalone series about Palpatine creating all these plans for what unfurls in the Empire of the Dark Times.
That could be. Yeah, I would assume Acolyte's going to be a bridge from High Republic to Dark Times. But then you also have like this kind of like, what would you call it? Late Republic era as well, that like Tales of the Jedi takes place in. That's kind of a separate
It's the Low Republic. The Low Republic.
The Low Republic.
You get the High Republic and you get
that
the
makes
Low
sense.
Republic.
The low ground. The low ground.
You get the Middle Republic.
Yeah.
I call it pre, during, and post Clone Wars.
There we go.
You get the So Republic. Yeah.
Post Clone, the after Clone Wars, the ACW.
I cannot wait for Andor and Tales of the Jedi. Like, those are my 2 things that I'm like, dude, inject it into my veins and do it immediately.
Yeah, for sure. Now, so let's
and
move
put Roken in both of them.
Yeah, totally.
Heck yeah.
Why not?
I have a feeling he's going to be another one of those characters that goes between different shows. Like an Ahsoka or a Saw Gerrera, or there's several of them that just keep Mon Mothma. They keep popping up in different spots. Definitely. Okay, so let's talk about like what the official people are saying about this, because there have obviously people have asked Kathleen Kennedy and Deborah Chow, hey, is there going to be another season of Kenobi? So let's talk about that.
First of all, I'll go to these quotes from. I think this is from Radio Times. This is from maybe it's maybe a few weeks old, but this has been around. And Ewan McGregor, Hayden Christensen, both done a lot of interviews, and of course, the prospect of season 2 has cropped up a lot, and they both are like very enthusiastic. Hayden Christensen says, "Well, it was definitely conceived as a standalone story, but I would love to continue with this character. You know, I think there's certainly more to explore, and I would love I would be so excited to do so. I certainly would be open to appearing in a second season." And then Ewan McGregor, as I was kind of paraphrasing earlier, he says, "I hope it's not the last time I play him. I had such a great time doing this. I'm sure we can think of a few more stories before I turn into Alec Guinness, don't you think?" So both these guys are like, boom, let's do another one. Like, let's do another one. So, like, I think, but like, and then going down to these recent comments from both Kathleen Kennedy and Deborah Chow. Deborah Chow is kind of mum on the issue. She's like, she says, quote, "For this one, we really did conceive it to be a limited series," basically quoting what Hayden said. And this is with Entertainment Night. And she says, "It really was one big story with a beginning, middle, and end. So we weren't thinking past that. I think, you know, it was to go forward. It would only be if there was a real reason to do another." But then Kathleen Kennedy pops up, and she's more optimistic seemingly about this. She says, "Well, frankly, we did set out to do a limited series." Again, they're all with this limited series thing. And then she says, "But I think if there's a huge engagement and people really want more Obi-Wan, we'll certainly give that consideration because the fans, they speak to us." And she says, "And if we feel like, okay, there's a real reason to do this, it's answering the why, then we'll do it, but we'll see." So Hayden and Ewan are like, "Just do it." And Deborah Chow's like, "Maybe." And Kathleen Kennedy's like, "Yeah, if you tell us to do it, we'll do it." So, like, they're not saying
everybody say thank you, Kathy.
She's really going off of the numbers, and we do have the numbers in. And the numbers is that the Obi-Wan Kenobi finale audience was 20% higher than the Book of Boba Fett audience. Now, no comparisons with the Mandalorian seasons 1 or 2 that we've heard of, but at least compared to the previous series, 20% more people watched the finale of Kenobi.
I heard that I think Book of Boba Fett was above Mandalorian, I think. So I think there's a steady uphill.
So Obi-Wan is the most popular thing ever. So it would seem kind of odd to not make a sequel from a business point of view.
Right.
If you're Kathleen Kennedy.
It fascinates me of when she says that. And we know that Star Wars is definitely listening to the fans and does a lot of things for fan service. And, you know, Solo, it wasn't received well. They decided not to. I'm fascinated where they look for it. Like, is it the Star Wars Twitter guy that's just this one guy scrolling, or girl scrolling on Twitter, just like reading what people say, or
Bob from social media shows up. He like prints out all the tweets that he gets, and he takes them physically to Kathleen Kennedy's office and shoves them under the door. Say, "Here, Kathy, here's all the tweets."
Yeah, this is what we got. Yeah, I find that fascinating. When they go, we listen. What are you listening to? Are they listening to the podcast right now? Should we tell them what we really want from the show? You know,
I have convinced myself that it's Ben running the Star Wars Twitter account. So like, he's on the show. He's not even listening. It's just Ben. Like, and until somebody tells me that it's not. Ben can't tell me it's not, though. I will not believe Ben if he tells me it's not.
Nor confirm nor deny anything.
Exactly.
Disney.
I drove by IHOP the other day, guys, and I almost cried. I was like, wait, I want to go to IHOP, but it's not the same.
You can go there, but my friends aren't all there.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. There you go.
Hannah wouldn't have ditched us for the Obi-Wan Kenobi premiere.
That is bringing us back in time.
I know. You
let me cry.
So, okay. So it seems like, you know, there's a lot of there's a lot of reasons outside of just the fact that there is an idea for seasons 2 and 3. There's a lot of reasons amongst the cast and crew of the show and the success of the show why there could be more of the show. Let's talk a little bit about some other Kenobi related things in the news. For instance, Liam Neeson was out giving his little soundbite quote about his thoughts on returning. He said, "I certainly didn't want anyone else playing Qui-Gon, and I wanted to show my respect for George and that mythical world that he created. Plus, Ewan is a pal, and I loved working with him during the Phantom Menace 25 years ago." So kind of unsurprising quote there.
Good old Liam. I'm never gonna do TV. Neeson.
That's what I was about to say. I was about to say, boy, bye. You know you was gonna be in this show, so stop. I was not having it with Liam Neeson. The answer to that question, I was not having it. I kept my opinions to myself because you Phantom Menace stands are crazy. Coming from a sequel stand, you guys are insane. So I didn't want to say nothing, but I was like, I'm literally not buying this. You know you're going to pop up soon. Otherwise, you wouldn't have said that.
Liam Neeson is
trying too hard.
He's one of those actors, and Qui-Gon's one of those characters that is in a shockingly little amount of Star Wars for how important a character he is. He's in one movie, one live action scene of a show, and then a tiny bit of Clone Wars. And that's pretty much it, I think. He's not really in much else. And yet, he's the type of character that is such a deep, interesting, fascinating character. I really hope we get to see more of him in Tales of the Jedi. And there's way more stories to tell with Qui-Gon. So glad that Liam is back.
Is anyone in the same boat of, I really absolutely, probably more than anything, want a Qui-Gon show. But it's like, I'm not even saying that or voicing that because I'm like, oh, it just won't ever happen. Like, there's just no chance of that happening. So there's no point being like, oh, I want this. Because I'm like, that is just so just impossible to achieve. But it's like absolutely what I want. And I totally agree with you there, Chris. I think he's such a deep character that would tell so many cool stories, but I just it's
super chat from Joel saying maybe you could be a Force ghost and Ahsoka. Yeah, I mean could be a Force ghost.
His great Padawan.
Yeah,
is that how it works? If his Padawan trained Anakin, and so it's great. I spend way too much time thinking about the grandparent equivalent to Masters and Padawans, actually. So
Master Qui-Gon. Where was Qui-Gon during Return of the Jedi when they had the Blue Ghost convention on Endor? Where was Qui-Gon? He just
that's why we had always assumed
he didn't get tickets in time.
He missed the queue. He missed the standby line. They closed it.
I like to think that like they had a discussion. Like, okay, here's what's going down. We're gonna go see Luke, and Qui-Gon's like, "Who's Luke? Like, who's this kid? What are you talking about?" And you're like, maybe, we want to give emotional support to Luke, but if you just show up, then it's just going to confuse him. He doesn't know who you are. So maybe just sit this one out, Qui-Gon.
It's true.
Yeah. Luke doesn't really know who. Yeah, that's true. Because Luke, I guess, wouldn't really know who many other Jedi are other than Obi-Wan and Yoda until after Return of the Jedi, when he's like kind of studying the sacred texts. So yeah, I guess that would So
that makes sense. So there's a lot that can be done with Liam Neeson in the future, and I really hope that they.
I really do think that Tales of the Jedi. I keep talking about Tales of the Jedi.
Yeah.
It'll kind of be like a backdoor pilot, maybe, for some Qui-Gon or maybe even some young Dooku stuff.
Outside of books and some comics, this will be the first like sizable Qui-Gon content we've gotten in ever.
Yeah,
true. That's true. So,
and Liam Neeson is voicing him. That was another reason I was like,
That's right.
You too good for TV, really? Right. You're voicing him again. You're not too good for TV.
fantastic cameo that we got was Temuera Morrison was in that one scene of Kenobi.
Yes.
And he loved that, and he had some quote. The full quote from him is, "That was the best part of the whole Obi-Wan Kenobi show. I'm joking. I really enjoyed that, playing around in their storyline and their time zone. Things are changing. I'm representing all that clone army that are no longer around anymore. It was a wonderful opportunity to pop in there and see what they're doing across the room from where we were. That came in handy. It worked out quite good to make a little cameo. I enjoyed working with you, and again, going back to Attack of the Clones, we did all that. Hey, you came to see me and this army and all that stuff. It was a wonderful time." So I really enjoyed seeing a clone in the show, and it was great that they brought back Tem. The only thing though is, why couldn't he have been Cody? Why couldn't it?
They have special plans for Cody. I want to believe. I was like, that was a surprising cameo because I expected to get Temuera Morrison in the flashback. I expected to see some clones in the flashback. We did see clones, but not on mass clone. I did not expect to see a clone in the quote modern day, and that was just like, that was a excellent use of like actors, stuff like that. Like the whole thing around Obi-Wan Kenobi was like, McGregor, he's the perfect age to play Obi-Wan in this era. Like, come on, let's do this. That's what they did it. And it's like, oh yeah, Temuera Morrison is also the perfect age to play a clone in this era. Like, do that. So they did it, and has this, speaking of cameos, like a subtle tie-in to Book of Boba Fett. Like, it really is. It's great.
And I think there's something so heartwarming about Tem as a person, and he's very much a beloved actor of Star Wars. So like his comments, he was just so just heartwarming to me, and especially because, like what he said, doing Attack of the Clones, and the Jango and Obi-Wan fight on Camino. It was short, but I really loved that whole scene and the chase, and I think they did have great chemistry on screen. So even though I'm like, I wanted more clone Kenobi interaction, I do like how it was so subtle, and it was just like a simple exchange of words. Got any change or for an what do you say, an ex-warrior to get an ex-military to get a warm meal or something? And just the expression. Veteran. There we go. Because Obi-Wan didn't even say anything to him, did he? But it was just, but you could feel. Yeah. But you could totally feel the exchange.
He gave him some money too. Gave him some credits too, which is good. Have you seen that or heard the theory? It's not really a theory. It's kind of like an observation of like that every episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi mirrors an episode of Star Wars. The first 6 episodes of Star Wars, down to like, Obi-Wan like goes to a place and he meets a clone. Like that like in episode 2 of Star Wars and episode 2 of Obi-Wan. Like it's really spot on.
Yeah, that's really cool theory. Last bit of news that we want to talk about involving the Obi-Wan show is that the Obi-Wan Kenobi soundtrack album is now available. It was dropped 3 days ago. So if you didn't know, now you know.
I didn't know. That's amazing.
It's on Spotify. I was just listening to it. Yeah.
Oh my God.
You can check that out. And then we have another super chat we wanted to get to about the show. And this is from Carl. He says, all right, hear me out. A Quinlan and Reva show where Quinlan helps rehabilitate her and shows her their encounters with the Empire. This would be probably, if I could have one thing, it would probably be this. I would like this more than literally anything else they could do in any era.
To quote a wise man, injected right into my veins.
Yes. Yes, my body's totally ready for this. 100%. Let's go.
It would be like a Dark Disciple 2. Like exactly. Straight up. That would be amazing.
Yeah. And I just can't imagine that they would drop Quinlan's name, knowing the fan base that he has, knowing how important of a character he is in the Clone Wars and the Clone Wars literature, in the expanded universe Republic comics. Like, knowing how important of a character he is, they can't just drop his name again. I don't want it to be a joke that they just say Quinlan's name, like in Revenge of the Sith and Kenobi. Let's actually see more of Quinlan Vos. He's such a fascinating, interesting character. He is my favorite Jedi. I want to see more.
Chris is going to be like an old man on this podcast one day. He's going to be like, oh, they mentioned Quinlan again. I guess they're never going to put him in the movies.
Oh, man. This is what they're not allowed to do, because they've already broken my heart once by killing R. Singh off screen. I swear, if somebody says, hi, you're the one who killed Quinlan Vos, I will riot. I will quit Star Wars if that happens. They're not allowed to kill Quinlan Vos off screen. If you want to have him have an honorable, sacrificial death on screen, that is totally fine. I could deal with everybody has to die at some point. Everybody dies. But, like, you can't do it off screen. You have to tell that story. Oh, my gosh.
The death of Quinlan. I love it. The story we actually need.
Yes, that is.
I mean, I have the graphic novel Revenge of the Sith. Like, he dies a fiery death in that thing.
That is not canon.
And it's not canon.
That was officially not canon. Officially not canon because of Dark Disciple and because of Kenobi.
Oh, man.
So, all right, that's going to wrap up our Kenobi discussion. We're going to move on to other things. But before we do, real quick, Jordan, we know you need to go. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so close to you. There we go.
Wait,
other way.
He's under. No. You're on the opposite side of the planet, and the Earth is not flat. They're both under each other, which is weird.
Is that?
Put your hand on the floor. Put your hand on the floor, and then
on the floor.
I'm not putting my hands on my floor. I'm sorry. My floor is dirty. I can't.
Oh, this is so
make
good.
a roll sandwich.
Thank you, Jordan. Make sure you check out Jordan on social media, TBluePulsar66. Make sure you check it out on TikTok. Awesome TikToks.
Thanks. See you guys later.
See you, Jordan.
Bye, Roken.
Roken stunt double.
All right. So let's get to the other kind of piece of big news that also is extremely sad and anticlimactic this week.
Right.
Taika Waititi's Star Wars movie will not shoot this year. This is coming from the Wrap. We had a lot of speculation about this, and finally someone asked him, and he said, quote, "Not this year. I'm going to be in New Zealand from August until the end of the year with Our Flag Means Death and Time Bandits, and during that time I will still be writing. I'm still trying to figure out what the story is." So I'm still trying to figure out what the story is. That sounds like this is a long way off.
Yeah, I mean, either Taika's gonna figure this story out real quick, and they're gonna have like the fastest turnaround in movie history on like shooting, scripting, filming, and release, or this thing's not coming out next year. It's just not going to happen. And we already like heard like, oh yeah, Taika's movie is replacing Rogue Squadron. Well, what replaces Taika's movie? Come on now.
Right. So I don't
playing musical chairs with these stupid movies.
If he's coming up with the idea still, there's no way this thing's going to be shooting until well into next year, which means we're talking like 2024, 2025 when it's going to come out. Like this is we have years to go until another Star Wars film.
At this point, I think we really have to mentally prepare ourselves for like a movie just not happening next year, honestly. And I hate to say that, but I feel like that's where we're headed in regards to. And I don't really mean that with contempt or like I am disappointed. I want Star Wars to come back to the theaters, but I'm also not in a huge big hurry in regards to this. I want them to figure it out. I don't want them to tell Taika, "You got until the end of the month to figure out the story, and then we're going to shoot this thing." Like, no, I don't want that. I want Taika to have as much time as he needs to figure this out and make a great movie. So yeah, do what you need to be doing. But it is frustrating when you're like, "Oh, 2023 Rogue Squadron." No, it's Taika's movie. No, it's something else. Like, come on, can you get something going here?
So Disney. Kathy, listen to me. Okay, so you're going to have several years until another Star Wars movie. Like you got the end of 2022, end of 2023, maybe even the end of 2024 without a Star Wars movie. This is what you do. Sitting on the shelf are Star Wars movies that we've never seen, just in a way we've never seen them. Attack of the Clones in 3D, Revenge of the Sith in 3D, and then in 1 year put out as a 6-hour marathon package the original trilogy in 3D. That is how you get us through these next 3 years. It was amazing to go back to theaters and watch The Phantom Menace in 3D. It held us over for a while, and between the Clone Wars movie and Episode 7, and because it was right smack between those two things. Now we have the opportunity to do this. It's like this stuff is already done. Some of this is already done. Episode 2 is already fully complete. They've showed it at Star Wars Celebration. I'm pretty sure. I think they've showed Episode 3 and 3D at Celebration too. They're done. Yeah. You just have to send the file over to the movie
on that damn shelf they keep talking about.
Email it to them. Just email it to AMC. And it's a little big, so you might need to use Google Drive, which is fine. Just upload it to Drive and send it to them. And then they can play it in their theaters in December. Attack of the Clones this December, Revenge of the Sith next December. And if you have another year, you can do the original trilogy and do that. Like, it's so easy. It's the obvious answer.
Yes, but yes, Joel, but now everyone loves The Phantom Menace. So,
I saw it. I don't know about you, Joel. I watched it.
It happened in Australia, and I saw it.
Yeah, we all saw it.
I think I enjoyed it. I totally agree with you, Chris. I think it's, I'm not up with my financial ways of post-production and advertisement of movies, but when you're not having to do full-on advertisement for a movie, or premieres or anything like that, what's the worst that can happen? They can only get a couple millions then instead of tens of millions. What's the worst that could happen if they could do that? And I think it would make a lot of fans happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's hard to say.
I mean, they re-released the original trilogy prior to the next wave of Star Wars films. The Star Wars special editions came out in the 1990s before they released The Phantom Menace. So this precedent is already set to re-release the films prior to new films coming out to hold people over and to prime people for the experience. So, and again, it's already done. You have to email it. They're just waiting.
What are we talking about? What is this talking about? Oh, Taika Waititi. That's right.
That's yes.
I forgot how we got it.
So give Taika some time so he doesn't have any pressure, so he can ruin Star Wars in a way that is awful and terrible and we'll all appreciate. And give us something to enjoy in the meantime. Let's see. So let's move on to some more kind of fun ideas about things that they could do in the meantime. Sam Jackson was talking to the Los Angeles Times recently, and he had a really interesting quote. We've seen a lot of actors be in Star Wars and then kind of regret that they were in Star Wars, or act like they regretted they were in Star Wars. Harrison Ford, for many, many years, kind of always got grumpy when he was asked about Star Wars, wanted to be asked about his serious films. Although we always love being asked about Indiana Jones. I don't know why. We of course know what Alec Guinness said about being in Star Wars. He thought it ruined a generation of kids. And we of course have other people being quoted as, "I'll be in Star Wars when I need another house," and things like that. So it's interesting to get the reverse quote from Mr. Mace Windu and Nick Fury himself, who says, "I'm not doing
Mr. and Mace." Sorry, I'm so sorry. When you said Mr. Mace, it reminded me of Jar Jar.
That's great.
Mr. and Mace. Sorry, continue.
Mace said, "I'm not doing statue chasing movies. I'd rather be Nick Fury or having fun being Mace Windu with a lightsaber in my hand." So Sam Jackson would rather just play Mace Windu and Nick Fury for the rest of his life than try to win Oscars and And I'm with him on that. I would love.
I mean, there's your season 2 of Book of Boba Fett right there. Is Mace Windu?
Oh yeah.
It is shocking to me that there hasn't been more Mace Windu in Star Wars. Like, Sam Jackson, such a great actor, and that character did a huge character. And obviously in animation, there's been a lot of Windu in animation, but in live action, we've seen the return of so many people. Now, Ewan McGregor's back, Hayden Christensen's back, Liam Neeson is back. We even have secondary characters like Owen and Beru coming back. Bail Organa is back. Genevieve O'Reilly as Mon Mothma. It just goes on and on and on and on. All the characters are coming back. Where's Sam Jackson? Where's Mace Windu? What are you doing?
Absolutely. It makes sense because, and like what you're saying, you're pointing out there's this odd cycle of like 15 to 20 years of actors coming back to Star Wars, and it's like, I think it'll continue. And Sam, like it's very openly positive what he says there. A lot of ex-Star Wars actors, if they get asked there, they just go, oh yeah, like that was a period of time, like full stop or period. And don't really kind of jest around with the idea, but I just found that such an open and positive thing to say about his experience with it. So it's like, I don't feel, I can't say like, oh, he's definitely like filming a Mace show right now because of that quote, but it's like, it's just like, I don't know, comforting to hear him so open and positive.
Here's the thing with Sam Jackson. You'll know he's doing something when he goes more than a month without campaigning to be in Star Wars. Like when Sam Jackson gets asked about Star Wars and he just like doesn't say anything, like you'll know, oh yeah, he's coming back in this window, no problem.
Yeah.
So I really hope that through flashbacks or some thing where he somehow lives and becomes a cyborg or whatever they want to do, I want to see him in more. And flashbacks would be great. I just want to see more stuff from the prequel eras, but even from the Clone Wars era. And here's something, just talking about this like nostalgia train that we've all been on, mentioning all these characters from the prequels that they brought back. I've had a realization when I was watching Kenobi and seeing the stuff with you and Hayden again, and it was kind of a surprising realization that I didn't expect to have. Because I was thinking back to the way that I felt when we saw Ahsoka and Bo-Katan in live action for the first time. And the realization that I had was that despite me being a kid when the prequels came out, and despite that being a part of my childhood, an important part of my childhood, and despite watching those movies again and again and again to the point where the DVDs were broken, the VHSs had wide lines on them, like all of the stuff, not seeing Ewan and Hayden back did not completely compare to the way that I felt seeing Siege of Mandalore finally made, or seeing those Clone Wars characters in live action, seeing Cad Bane in live action. And that's when I had the full realization that my era of nostalgia is actually the Clone Wars. It's not which is weird because it's like I was there for the prequels first. You'd think that would be the thing.
Are you saying mall packaging isn't nostalgic anymore?
It is, but I think it's actually the Clone Wars mall packaging that came later, over a decade later in time. That might actually be the true one. For when it comes to toys, yes, that wasn't a nostalgic time. But I think for on screen, for me, I actually feel most emotionally connected to the Clone Wars era and the Clone Wars characters. Like that is the moment when I reached peak Star Wars fan. I don't think I was peak Star Wars fan before that, because before that, I was watching the movies, I was playing with the toys. I wasn't really talking about it. I wasn't really doing anything about it. When we got to Clone Wars, I was podcasting about it. I was talking about it online every day. I was writing reviews and articles, breaking it down. Like that was the era where I kind of came into the fullest level of Star Wars fandom, was during the Clone Wars and through the Clone Wars. And so for me, ultimately, what I kind of want out of Star Wars is more stuff branching out from the Clone Wars, which also in a way is also branching out from the prequels because they're the same characters. But I think the reason why I like seeing Obi-Wan and Anakin and want to see Mace Windu and all these things and Cody, it's not because I want to see more of the prequels. It's because I want to see live action versions of the Clone Wars or just more animated shows based on the Clone Wars characters, which is really interesting.
Yeah. There's an experience that happens, and I'm not sure if it's only with Clone Wars kind of fans that, like, I think us three are quite mostly sentimental around Clone Wars. There's an interesting experience now. Maybe it's just me, but I'll see if you guys felt this too. But when I saw Bo-Katan and Ahsoka, and I'm trying to think of who else in Mando show up that they've only been in Clone Wars, even seeing Hera in Bad Batch, that kind of situation. I had this feeling as if no one else knew who that character was but me. And you're like, I felt it really heavily when Bo-Katan came on, and you see it, and you go, I know her. Like, you feel like you want to say, I know her. Like, I've seen her do all these other stuff. Like, and you feel like you're the only one that knows this character. Maybe not even in the fandom, but like in Galaxy, you're like, oh my gosh, Mando, no, you don't know who this is. This is Bo-Katan. Like, I have this whole relationship and feeling with this character. And I think it makes the connection of, like what you're explaining there, Chris, of Clone Wars era characters and stories really, like, there's an intense connection of Clone Wars fans to Clone Wars for this really deep reason. And that's why we want more of it, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm in a similar boat with you, Chris. I think, and with you, like Hannah, like with the regards to, like, there is so many C's now, Clone Wars, Rebels, and I think like the Quinlan Vos mention in like Obi-Wan Kenobi, I think is like obviously a mention to, like, Quinlan Vos has been in the comics, whatever. But, like, it's a direct reference to like those Clone Wars episodes and to like the fact that Obi-Wan and Quinlan were friends and like that, building on that relationship. And going back to the prequels, like, of course I have nostalgic for those movies, but I remember specifically like being a Star Wars fan, watching the original trilogy, going like, oh, there's movies coming out, this is cool. Like watching The Phantom Menace, and then like waiting 3 years because there was nothing going on, and I didn't know there was a fandom. I wasn't online. I wasn't reading comics or books or whatever else. I was just watching the movies. And, Attack of the Clones is here, and then I watched it in a theater, and then there you go. Like, there was no Disney Plus to go rewatch it again. I didn't have the DVDs or whatever else. It just was there. Like, Clone Wars was the first opportunity that I had as a fan, going like, I'm watching this week to week. I'm talking to people online. It's this whole experience to where it kept my fandom alive. Whereas opposed to after Revenge of the Sith is like, okay, well, Star Wars is over. There's gonna no more Star Wars movies. Everybody go home, go back to your normal lives. We can't be Star Wars fans anymore because it's over. Clone Wars was like, wow, Star Wars is like, it's continuing on. That's what like wowed me when I watched the first episode of Clone Wars ever, which like, this is like cinematic quality. I know season 1 of Clone Wars was like not the best, but still to me it was like, these are the people that made the movies, and they're treating this, even though like the visuals maybe aren't quite there, it's still treating it like a movie. They're filming it, they're shooting it, everything like a movie, and it stuck out to me. And that's why I'm like, okay, this is a continuation of that. And Clone Wars is still probably my favorite thing ever in Star Wars, like, period. So it is the thing that I have most nostalgic for. And probably my biggest disappointment, and it's not really a big disappointment, but it is the fact that we didn't get more Clone Wars references in Obi-Wan Kenobi. I would have loved to have heard Ewan McGregor say the name Satine. That would be great. Like, or anything along those lines.
They're allowed to make season 2, but it just needs to be 10 seconds. And that's just Ewan McGregor saying,
Satine.
That's it. That's it.
I'll take it. But yeah, I just, it is, we all have those nostalgia points. And like now going forward, I look back on The Force Awakens as kind of my nostalgic favorite Star Wars movie. It's been only like 6 years, but it was for me a big moment in my life. And, it really made an impression on me. And even though like, opinions here and there, like that's movie has a special place in my heart. So everyone has those nostalgic places of like where things land for you, and Siege of Mandalore is like saw that in the big screen in Celebration. It was one of the best things ever. Like it was great. Like it was so good.
Yeah, absolutely. So it makes sense. Bring back to the point of Samuel.
Yeah, what were we talking about?
Making these comments. Yeah, Sam Jackson. This idea of coming back up, like it. It makes sense and it feels good, and I think a lot of fans would be satisfied if he ever had a return for a cameo or a whole season of a show.
So one Clone Wars character that would translate very interestingly to live action is Lux Bonteri.
Oh my goodness!
I've been
thinking about this for like a week. Yes,
and I know who would be great to play him, and that would be one Chris Evans, who recently was talking with MTV.
Sell that to me. I'm not sold on Chris Evans playing Lux Bonteri.
Well, he was asked if he would like a role in Star Wars, and he said, "God, would I love to be in Star Wars? I mean, I would do anything. If I was just a stormtrooper, I'd be thrilled." And I could totally see Chris Evans.
And he also, breaking news, he also said, yes, I would love to play that obscure Clone Wars character, Lux Bonteri.
Yes,
the
uptight politician. What does he? He's not a rebel, but he's
he's a separatist.
I'm
trying to make this work in my head. I'm trying to like mash Captain America and Lux Bonteri together and make this work.
It makes perfect sense to me. He's like
I'm trying to think him with like darker hair
and like character in Star Wars. Like
imagine him like having romantic tensions with Rosario Dawson. Like
yes.
I want like a what's his name? Tom Ellis. I want him to play Lux Bonteri. You know Tom Ellis? British actor.
Wait.
You guys know.
I'm sure I do.
Yeah, he's in Lucifer.
I agree. He looks Lucifer? A little bit more like him.
I can see that.
Yeah. Anyway, he's
so someone needs to ask Tom Ellis if he wants to do Star Wars.
Oh man, but yeah, it's really funny you mentioned this because Lux has been on my mind. Like, well, he's always been on my mind, but
as
really,
he is on everyone's minds all the time.
I have a Lux Bonteri pillow that I sleep with. Like,
it's one of those full size ones.
oh yeah, 6 feet.
But because he's kind of this character that he kind of would fit in like an Andor kind of series.
Yes. And he's very much like Andor because Andor, they come from the same background of a separatist turned rebel. So there's a lot of similarities between Onderon and where Andor comes from.
Yeah, that actually like makes a ton of sense. Like if you think about it, having Andor in the vicinity of Rogue One, which is in the vicinity of Saw Gerrera and all that kind of stuff, and Saws, I mean, taking that character and doing what they did, like a character like Lux Bonteri, and we don't like he does show up in that Inferno Squad book from way back. I can't remember what happens to him, and it's set around the original trilogy, I think, or maybe even later. So I don't know what happens there, but like we don't really know what happens to him. So like, hell yeah, put him in Andor. Like do that.
Yeah.
Maybe he's in the trailer. We don't even know it yet.
He might be. Wrapping up this conversation, some super chats while we're talking that I want to get to. Joel saying it's weird, but like Chris, I kind of consider Clone Wars an entirely different entity compared to the prequels, despite being the same overall era. I will say one final thing on that is I knew that I was perhaps a Clone Wars fan first when I watched Attack of the Clones for the first time after seeing Clone Wars and being like, this is a prequel to the Clone Wars. Interesting. I had that feeling, which is interesting. And then Joel also talking about soon Rebels nostalgia will be a thing. Oh, it already is a thing. Like Anna mentioning Hera. It already definitely
go on Twitter. People are already nostalgic about Obi-Wan Kenobi. Come on. So.
Yeah, love that guy.
Remember Reva? Remember how nostalgic we felt? Yeah.
Star Wars just isn't how it used to be. It's not, this new Star Wars, man, I just can't get into it. It's not like Star Wars was last week.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Oh man, it's like kind of accurate to what some people are even saying there.
It seems like Twitter does move that fast. Sometimes.
Guaranteed, there's going to be someone on Twitter going like, Andor, I don't like this show. Bring back Obi-Wan Kenobi.
So we have one more story for you guys. We have some official news that a word that John Williams, who is now age 90, is going to be stepping away from film scoring, but not music entirely. And that brings up the question of, will we ever see him do something for Star Wars again or not? So the quote, this is from the Washington Post. Williams saying, at the moment, I'm working on Indiana Jones 5, which Harrison Ford, who's quite a bit younger than I am, I think has announced will be his last film. So I thought if Harrison can do it, then perhaps I can. Also, I don't want to be seen as categorically eliminating any activity. I can't play tennis, but I like to be able to believe that maybe one day I will. So it's like, what is this a non-story? Like
John Williams is like, hey, a 79-year-old man that I know is retiring, and I'm 90. Maybe I should retire too.
It was almost like he was just like musing to himself of like.
Yeah. I love that he of course the big news out of this was like, what if he is retiring? Indy 5, Obi-Wan Kenobi, that might be his like final works ever. Like that's crazy. But then he's like, no, I don't want to rule it out. Like he's 90 years old. And he's like, well, no, I don't want to put myself in a box. I don't want to actually retire in case like something comes up. Like, if like there's a Rey Skywalker movie, like he's gonna be one to score that. Like he loves Daisy Ridley. He's gonna want to do that stuff. So like, that's I love the fact that John Williams, for one, I want to be alive when I'm 90. I don't think I'm gonna make it that long, but I would like to be alive. And I want just his like outlook on life, just like continuing to do something. Like like the fact that he's not only like up and walking and talking, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna continue to score like the best music that has ever been written before.
I truly believe that like at a certain point, if you get fortunate with your health, living is just a matter of if you're actively doing something that you love. Like I really do think that it is. Oh, yeah. And I think that a lot of the people that they do make it into their 90s, it's because they have something in their life that they are passionate about, whether it's their family or their hobbies or their careers still going, like with John Williams, that keeps them going, and waking up every day. And so, I think it's kind of not a matter of, I hope that when I'm 90, I can, be doing something I love like John Williams. I think it's if I do something that I love for as long as I can, I might end up being 90. I think that's how I look at it.
Absolutely, yeah. It definitely says something to his creativity, and it's not just like a job that he got into. Like it really is a passion of his and a gift and a talent of his that is just so easy to him. He's like, oh yeah, like. And I think that's why he's so nonchalant about like retiring or making it clear, because he's just like, if the project's like there, like I want to be open to it, like he's just so, it's just a way of life for him to do this, score music and make incredible pieces.
I just love the idea of like a few years from now, it's just like, oh yeah, 150-year-old John Williams is still writing the score to episode 27 of Star Wars, and he's officially the oldest recorded ever human.
Oh man, it's gotta happen.
That would be.
I just don't think he's gonna stop. I think he's gonna continue on forever.
That'd be freaking awesome. Matthew Hardy in the chat saying that after he finishes Indy 5, he will have been scoring for 65 years. That is quite the career. Again, longer than some people live scoring films.
That's crazy.
That's
he's specifically talking about film music here. He's not even like, he's leaving like regular like scoring stuff like that like off the table. Like he's still doing music stuff. He's just like, I'm probably gonna step away from this whole.
He's got to do his rock opera album like Christopher Lee did when he was 90. That's what 90-year-old Star Wars alums do.
Oh yeah, that's what you're gonna do.
Rock opera.
There you go.
That's fantastic. Well, all right. So that is all the news that we have for you tonight. I have to figure out how.
Do you want to put the music on?
Which one? I don't actually know which one we use.
It's the rock.
It's the rock. It's rock. How do you know?
Is it?
There you go.
I'm creeped out now. I'm like,
it's the hat. It's the information is in the hat. That's why I wear it.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. It all makes sense now.
Bring it down a little bit.
Oh man, that's great. All right, so that'll do it for this episode of the show. We'll be back with another episode, same time, same place next week. In the meantime, make sure you follow at the SWU on social media so you don't miss any memes or breaking news throughout the week or announcements about future shows. Ben, thank you so much for hosting tonight.
It's a pleasure as always. Speaking of social media, help us get to 100,000 followers on Twitter. We're extremely close. Help us go. If you haven't already, go follow us at the SWU. Wow. We're very close to 100,000. That's been a long time coming, and every time I'm like, is it there yet? Not quite there. We're 96.1. You have a chance of being the 100,000th follower of the Star Wars Underworld. So definitely go check that out. And yeah, I have nothing to promote. Yeah, guys, just go do that. Go make me happy if I do that.
If you are the 100,000th subscriber, we will send you one pancake.
I thought you were going to say 100,000 pancakes.
One.
100,000 pancakes.
So definitely at the SWU is where you can follow us on social media. Hannah, thank you so much for hosting as well.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Lots of interesting topics today, even though it was just what we're going to add to the Star Wars universe, really. That's what we talked about for an hour and a half, which is always a pleasure to talk about. But yeah, go follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Raeside Walker. I'm just talking about Star Wars over there and loving Star Wars. And like I said at the start, just twiddling my thumbs until Andor starts.
And make sure you follow Hannah over on Twitch, because you're starting to do some
yes. I've started over there, and it's so funny because I'm so not a tech person, and it takes me like an hour of setup every day, even though it's like 3 cables. But yeah, I'm doing some Lego Star Wars over there, which is super fun. If you want to go and watch some fun gaming, and I dance, I sing, I explain random Star Wars thoughts. So definitely give me a follow over there if you want all of that.
Awesome. So make sure you check that out. And follow me on TikTok at Seek3PO. I want to thank the one person who followed me last week after I tried to guilt all of our subscribers to follow us. One person did. So thank you to that
Your
one
guilt
person.
strategy worked.
I went from 21 followers to 22 after all of that. So
well, one of you is off the hook
on TikTok. But the same handle there at Seek3PO as I am everywhere else. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't. A huge thanks to Carl and Joel for super chatting.
Happy birthday, Joel!
And happy birthday to Joel.
Joel's birthday. That's right. That's right. It's Joel's birthday.
I remember that till now. Thank you, Ben, for that. Yes, happy birthday, Joel. Joel has been one of our most dedicated listeners, email writers, and super chatters.
One day in the next 10 years, we'll read another of your emails. I promise.
Yeah. Yes, there's just a long queue. I think we're gonna publish a book, Emails from Joel. It's gonna be a full book.
We'll just do a full like live 4-hour live stream. It's just emails from Joel, words from Mr. Joel Davis.
I love it.
Oh, that's absolutely amazing. Definitely, like Joel has become a channel member, so you can get that cool little badge and help us buy more pancakes. And patreon.com/the SWU is where you can subscribe and get some stuff back, like merch and exclusive content. And finally, swunderworld@gmail.com is that email feedback line that we get to once every 8 weeks sometimes. So definitely send your emails to Liv over there along with all of Joel's. So that's it. We are out of here. For Ben and Hannah and Jordan, who joined us earlier, my name is Chris, and may the Force be with you. Hedda, are you gonna do the honors?
It's a wrap.
Awesome.
I didn't know if that was a soundbite or not. I was like, is that live? I just thought it was